Welcome to the Ignition News. We love to have you here, but remember to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Click that like button, that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. It's going to be a great show. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get busy with the truth. Good morning and welcome to the Ignition News. It is April 21st, 2026. You'll have to forgive me. I think I might be coming down with something, so if I randomly start coughing during the show, you'll have to forgive me. We have three stories today that all tie together in a really important way. So let's get right into it. Good morning, and I hope you're having a great day, by the way. I know it's been a really odd year, hasn't it? It's been ups and downs and chaos and circus and all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, you're still here. Yes, we're still here, and that is what matters. We're still in the fight, in the resistance, and we are here with each other. Good morning. Again, it's April 21st. Let's take a look at some of the things that happened today throughout history. In 1789, John Adams was sworn as the first vice president of the United States. In 1918, German fighter Ace Manfred von Richthofen, known as the Red Baron, was killed in action. In 1934, the Daily Mall publishes the Surgeon's Photo, the famous but fraudulent image of the Loch Ness Monster. Yes, I know you know exactly which photo I'm talking about. In 1972, the Apollo 16 lunar module landed on the moon with astronaut John Young and Charles Duke. And in 1986, I do remember this. In 1986, Geraldo Rivera hosted a live television show to open Al Capone's vault. It was a massive national television spectacle, and there was nothing inside. Let's see. What about some trivia today? In 1997, a Pegasus rocket carried the cremated remains of 24 people, including Gene Roddenberry and Timothy Leary, into Earth's orbit. The retail chain Forever 21 was originally founded in Los Angeles today. It is National Tea Day. It is Bulldogs Are Beautiful Day. It is World Creativity and Innovation Day. It is National Chocolate Covered Cashews Day. I know you were waiting for this day. And it is Big Words Day. So that's awesome. Queen Elizabeth II was born in 1926 on this day. In 1947, Iggy Pop was born. And Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia, was also born on 1729. How do you organize a space party? You plan it. Okay. Like I said, they're not always great jokes. Good morning. Like I said, we have three stories today. We have a Republican congressman who just named a bill after Zohran Mamdani to try to get him deported. We know that Apple's Tim Cook is stepping down and heading straight into the arms of the White House, and a small state in the Pacific is trying to radically change your political power. That's probably the story I'm most excited about. Let's get right to it. The first story is the Mamdani Act. Texas Republican Chip Roy stood up in Congress yesterday and introduced what he is calling the Mamdani Act. This is disgusting. That stands for Measures Against Marxism's Dangerous Adherents and Noxious Islamists. Just disgusting, these people. He literally named the bill after New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani because he needed a villain. And Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, who was, by the way, born in Uganda, fit his bill perfectly. So here's what his proposed legislation suggests. It would make any non-citizen deportable, denaturalizable, and inadmissible if they advocate for or are affiliated with socialism, communism, Marxism, or Islamic fundamentalism. That means you could lose your citizenship or get deported or be blocked at the border just for what you believe or what you say or what you publish or what organizations you have been part of at any point in your life. And here's the part that should make you, really think about the rule of law. The bill strips the courts of power to review those decisions. Deportation, denaturalization. No judge takes a look at the case. Roy told Breitbart, a real winning organization, by the way, and I want you to hear his framing here, that the bill deploys new tools to fight back against what he calls the Red-Green Alliance. He says that Marxist and Islamist advance has devastated Europe and has arrived on his doorstep in Texas. Okay, I just want to quickly point out For all of you, advocates of capitalism, I saw this. There's that always famous quote. I think it was from Margaret Thatcher, or it was attributed to her. She says, "The problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money." Okay, well, we are in a capitalist country right now, and we are $38 trillion in debt. So it's not subtle, by the way. It's a direct quote from a United States congressman. Here's what he said: "No more Muslims, no more criminals, no more Marxists." That was an actual member of Congress saying that. Representative Delia Ramirez from Illinois called it out directly. She said fascism always requires a public enemy and that the list of targets will expand little by little until there's no one left. And that's exactly the point. If you think this would just be restricted to immigrants or people looking to get their citizenship or come into the United States, history tells us otherwise. If they start making it illegal to be a Marxist, they will come for all of us. They will. I'm a socialist. I'm on that list. And so is anyone who ever has marched or organized or even handed out a flyer for anything that this bill identifies as Marxist ideology. And of course, his definition is vague by design. Vague definitions in authoritarian legislation are not an accident, it's by design. Chip Roy is running for Texas Attorney General, by the way. He needs big red meat, and this is certainly that. But don't let the cynical political timing distract you from what this actually represents. This ideology is very real in the United States of America. They're trying it to see how much pushback they get. Your silence is the data that they use to say, well, I guess this isn't so bad after all. And that's why you have to use your voice. Next story. A lot of people surprised yesterday to see Tim Cook. Apple yesterday announced that Tim Cook is stepping down as CEO. That's going to happen on September 1st, and he's going to hand the reins of CEO to John Ternus. That's Apple's current head of hardware engineering, which, by the way, just incidentally, that is a great decision. It's great to see a hardware person as CEO at Apple. They've really been knocking it out of the park lately. Of course, Tim Cook is not leaving. He's moving into the executive chairman role, which is exactly the kind of position that keeps a person's fingerprints involved in the company's operations and still gives him time to enjoy a little bit more time at the gym and the beach. This is the first CEO transition at Apple since Tim Cook actually replaced Steve Jobs in 2011. That's 15 years. Cook then, by the way, took Apple from a $100 billion company to one of the consistently one of the most valuable companies on the planet. But there is a different angle I want you to think about here. Cook's final chapter as CEO has not been defined by amazing product launches, but by political proximity to Donald Trump. In August, he famously showed up at the White House to announce that Apple would spend $600 billion in the United States over 5 years, and Trump stood next to them and read out his commitments out loud. He said, and this is a direct quote, "I love that you are doing this." That was the president. Apple faces a genuinely complicated picture right now. Tariffs on imports from China and other Asian countries where Apple builds virtually everything, AI chip shortage, supply chains that are entangled with conflict. Tim Cook has spent years navigating this by being present and in the room with Trump. They call him the Trump whisperer. Now, Ternus steps in. He's a mechanical engineer. He's obviously built hardware, and he is not the global supply diplomat that Tim Cook is. And so they can't just say goodbye to Tim Cook because really Tim Cook's the only one at Apple that seems to be able to talk to the president. But I have to say just briefly, Tim Cook is a man who took full advantage of everything that the United States had to offer: public education, streets, roads. And he came of age in an era where civil rights advanced, took steps forward, giant leaps forward. Tim Cook is one of the first openly gay CEOs in the country. And for a man like that, who was afforded all of the opportunities that he was afforded, to have thrown so many people under the bus is a career-defining legacy. Tim Cook will not be remembered as the CEO who took Apple to a trillion-dollar company. He will be remembered as the shaking hands man with that gold trophy in the White House. That will be his defining moment. And I think that is a lesson to all of us. It's a lesson about the last 5 minutes. Famously, let me just put it this way. If you've ever been to a theme park or Disneyland, something like that, right? If you ask someone leaving Disneyland if they had a great time and you said, "Can you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10?" A lot of times they're going to say 9 or 10. But if you ask that same person when they're standing in line, a very long line, or they're trying to use a bathroom and the bathroom's dirty, they might give it a 3 or a 4. The last 5 minutes is something Disney really focuses on, giving people big magical moments, right? That's why they have that amazing fireworks show every night, big parades, all those kinds of things, because people tend to remember how things ended. And how things ended for Tim Cook was obviously a lot of financial success. Obviously, he's responsible for the shareholders. Obviously, he has to try to do what he can to prevent terrorists from devastating the company. But at what point do we decide that money or stock is more valuable than human life? And how much longer as a country can we say certain people no longer matter because of your stock portfolio? And I think as someone who admired Tim Cook for a long time, as someone who saw Tim Cook as a potential role model, to see him with his shaking hands, and he also was at the Melania premiere, by the way. That was another disappointing moment. To have accomplished all of that, to be so beloved by not just people at Apple, but people around the world, and to throw that all away with shaking hands. The longer I think about it, the less I believe that his shaking hands were because he was nervous. But Tim Cook is a very smart man. And sometimes I wonder if the reason Tim Cook's hands were shaking was because he fully understood the legacy that he was leaving, everything he had accomplished, and he had to sell it out, all for, I don't know, tariffs? And what makes it worse is Tim Cook is a very wealthy man, but Apple is a very wealthy company. It has enormous cash reserves. If any company could have fought the president on his tariffs, which were, by the way, incidentally ruled illegal, proving factually that Apple was on the wrong side of history definitively, Apple could have stood up to the tariffs with its aggressive war chest, with its massive and very effective legal teams, and it could have pushed back. But Tim Cook, as the CEO, made a choice, shaking hands and all. I hope you make a better choice if you're ever put in a situation like that. But there are people making better decisions for your life. So we're going to go all the way from Washington, D.C. to Hawaii. Hawaii versus Citizens United. This is actually happening right now. This is SB 2471. It's fully passed the Hawaii Senate. It was unanimous. It's cleared one House committee so far. And if it clears the House Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee, it's going to head to a conference vote before the session ends on May 8th. What is this bill that I'm talking about? Well, it challenges Citizens United from an angle nobody has tried before. Instead of arguing about free speech, it goes back to the first principles on what a corporation actually is. Hawaii's constitution already says that corporations are artificial persons created by the state. This bill says that because the state creates corporations and grants them their powers, the state can also decide those powers do not include spending money to influence elections or ballot measures. This is a very novel political idea, and they are bringing the fight to Citizens United. Tom Moore and the Center for American Progress put it plainly. He said, this makes Citizens United irrelevant in Hawaii. The theory that it is corporations that only have they're basically saying corporations only have the power that the state gives to them, and Hawaii is choosing not to give them powers to flood elections with money. Now, the Hawaii Attorney General opposes the bill. What are we doing? The deputy AG told lawmakers that the bill raises serious constitutional concerns and would face immediate litigation. Isn't that interesting? He is almost certainly right. It's obviously going to be challenged in court. And he's probably right that federal courts will look at it skeptically because Citizens United is essentially law of the land. I mean, it made itself all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court famously saying corporations are people. But here's why it matters even if it loses. Similar legislation has already been introduced in 13 other states: Arizona, California, Georgia, Kansas, Maryland, just a lot of states. Now, a lot of other states have bills that are being drafted right now. Connecticut is planning to introduce one in 2027. Hawaii's bill has gone farther than any of them. If it passes, it will become the first real test of this theory. And legal theories that look like long shots have a way of building case law over time. This is how we change things, not by waiting for our congressional representatives, but by showing up on the front line. Not by hoping for the Supreme Court, but by challenging the Supreme Court and asking them to decide what actually is the law of the land. Can Hawaii determine that corporations are basically fake people? Have you ever seen a corporation use the bathroom? Have you ever seen a corporation drive a vehicle or take their child to school or give birth? Have you ever seen a corporation buying groceries? Have you ever seen a corporation filling up their gas tank, or have you ever seen a corporation crying at the loss of a loved one? The idea that fictitious pieces of paper somehow are human beings that should have outsized weight on our elections is patently absurd. And it's time that we start fighting back. Part of the problem with American politics is we fail to have a sense of imagination. But the people who work against us, they seem to always have almost unlimited imagination. Project 2025 is an incredible example of exactly that. When it first came out, obviously people thought it was wild skepticism, but as of now, a significant part of Project 2025 has already been implemented or is already on the way. These fanciful, quote unquote, crazy ideas are now affecting your life, whether that's your healthcare, public services, your access and rights. Well, I think it's time we start fighting back. And we have to stop using the same old playbook, playing it safe, playing it nice, playing it diplomatic. We need to be aggressive. We need to think creatively. We need to try to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. This is really the only option that we have. We have to try creative, bold ideas because there will always be a lawyer for a corporation or a storied political interest. There will always be someone waiting to trade stock or someone waiting to buy oil futures. Or a corporation waiting to try to buy your politicians. And sadly, as you're now seeing perhaps more than you've ever seen, politicians are for sale, and you simply don't have the buying power to buy them. It's time you start realizing that. It's time we all start realizing that. But there are smart people in Hawaii trying to, well, as Steve Jobs once said, think different. That's the show, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Ignition News. We'll be live on Wednesday, assuming I'm not too sick. We'll see. That's the show.